welcome to the What Inspires You podcast. My name is Paul.
And I'm Brandon. Join us as we rediscover wonder through inspiring conversation.
What are we talking about? Cut out every sniff and sniffle.
I think that's going to be me in like 40 minutes. So
Okay. Well, dude, in that case, welcome to episode 40, I believe.
40.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we're actually going to be doing something a little different. I think this is going to be our last basic episode, and then we're going to start trying to put our stuff out there in different places. So
That's right. Going to the next level, people.
yeah, so I think we're going to be doing some stuff on Spotify, maybe some stuff on Apple Podcasts, and then so starting with the next episode, we'll kind of just call it season 2, I think.
Yeah.
And do a little rebranding, refresh,
Yeah. That's right.
and all that stuff. So yeah, if you enjoy it on like listening on any of those platforms, I think we'll be there going for it after this one.
That's right. If you like us now, you'll like us even better soon. Once we sign that $100 million Spotify contract.
Is that all it is these days?
No.
It's gone down. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Spotify's going broke. I don't think they can afford all the top people. They can't afford us. Psh, kidding me.
Dude, I'm surprised because like they keep offering more stuff too for free, like the podcast hosting we're doing.
Yeah.
They're just like, we'll host your video podcast for free, and I'm like, again, I don't know how that's sustainable.
It
But
sounds good to me, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound good to you.
right?
I don't know how that works.
I know. I think YouTube was like, I don't even know if it's profitable yet. Like, I think it wasn't profitable for like the first 15 years or something.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, because everyone's just uploading like literally hundreds of years worth of video a day.
Oh, yeah. I know.
So
It's insane.
it's kind of amazing that it works as well as it does.
It is actually, yeah, that it's not like insanely glitchy.
Yeah.
I know. How do we not have like an entire desert filled with like underground servers that people just have to like
Yeah.
load their data onto or whatever?
On the fact you can go and like look up a video from 10 years ago that you made or something,
Right.
you know, it's like that's pretty impressive that it's
Yeah.
like stored that long for free.
Yeah.
Like not many places will do that.
Yeah.
And all you
it's
got to do
true.
is watch some 5-second ads here and there
Yeah.
or ad block them.
Yeah. Remember that. Yeah. Don't ever ad block us, by the way. We have ads.
For our zero monetization.
It'll pay for our microphones.
There you go. Well, all right.
We're just broke artists.
Yeah. I guess I'll go first then, because
Yeah, man. Go for it.
Because I'm talking about being broke, so it's the perfect transition.
Broken record.
Yeah. So essentially, what was inspiring to me was not having a lot of money.
Even foxes have holes.
Oh, there you go, dude. It's a good one. Yeah, and the dandelions of the field. Yeah, no. So for me, I've been thinking about it like lately because I'm just kind of between jobs and stuff, and just kind of like, you know, I've always lived a very comfortable lifestyle, even while being very under the poverty line for pretty much my whole life. I don't think I've ever made more than like $2,000 in a month, and so, and that was a good month. But you know, it's like I've always just lived very frugally, way below my means, tried to make it last. And so I've always had kind of like savings and stuff because of that. But now I'm kind of like burning through those. And it's like interesting to have that safety blanket kind of taken off, you know, where it's, you know, I've kind of just been thinking now, like, it's very motivating.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. Like the fire's been turned up a notch, you know,
Yeah.
it's like the heat's coming. So yeah, for me, it's been really interesting just to find the areas where, you know, as you kind of have that pressure, you know, I think things start to highlight themselves as to what your priorities are, what your values are, you know, and all those kinds of things. And so I've been kind of like learning a lot about that of just, you know, it's like, okay, if you have to choose between two things that take money, it's like, which one you don't get both, you know, you only get one.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. It's an interesting conundrum, you know, and it's like, you know, even being willing to then, you know, step out and spend money on something. It's like, you know, you're trying to make sure that it's going to pay off for you in the future in some way, or like, you know, that it's an investment or it's, you know, necessary. And so you trim off a lot of the fat, it feels like, of finding things that are necessary. And then, you know, you find out a lot about yourself. So, I guess for me, I was just kind of go over maybe some of those things in like
Yeah, man.
areas where, you know, it's like what has been trimmed away and what, you know, kind of stays.
Mm.
And so, like for me, I think kind of one of the first things to go was, you know, just kind of like excess food stuff, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've always liked, you know, having treats or whatever, like different things. And for me, it's kind of worked out because, you know, it like kind of coincided with trying to be healthier and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, oh, if I just cut out, you know, ice cream or whatever, like,
Right.
you know, dairy-free ice cream, it's like, that saves me a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm also healthier and I feel better for it.
Mm.
So it's like this weird thing where you're like, in some ways deprived, but you end up better for it, you know, in multiple ways because you have more resources to spend and then you also feel better internally.
Mm.
And so I was like, oh, you know, that's kind of like a cool thing that comes from that. And so, yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like, what do you feel like the average person's, or maybe your own experience, like what people's relationship with money and food is? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's a very unhealthy relationship for most people. Most people, it's like, I'm going to ignore what my budget is and just make sure I buy an extra sugar items. You know?
Yeah.
That's how it is for, I think, most human beings.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting how there's kind of a weird thing where if people, where do I want to go with this? If people like have money, they choose to buy a lot of healthy things. Like there's a lot of stuff in the world that's like, this is the extra healthy, organic, you know, super healthy way to do this thing. And if you buy that, then it's like really expensive. Like you go to the Whole Foods and you buy the extra pricey thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you can be super healthy if you just buy the vegetables, you know, which maybe you pay another 50 cents for the organic one or whatever.
The 25-pound bag of organic rice for $30.
Yeah, it's like, well, you know, you could actually be really healthy if you and live on a really nice budget. It's more that we spend our extra money on all these extra snacks, sugars, foods, restaurants, all these things that are more indulgences. They're not the essentials.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that usually makes us unhealthy, is not the essential stuff. It's the extra stuff we do.
Yeah.
And so then I think what happens is that people, when they have a lot of money, they take all those extra things and then they just buy the healthy version of those extra things so that it's like everything they're eating is healthy. But it was like, wow. Or it could have just cut out the extra stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's funny because like for me, a lot of like the budgeting stuff just in the past and frugality was buying in bulk. So it just like naturally led to like more healthy stuff. I'm coining a new diet that I came up with.
Oh, yeah?
It's called the no barcode diet.
The no barcode.
And so yeah, just if you're gonna buy something, it can't have a barcode on it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's good. Had to take a small break there, so I go get a cookie while we were talking about this.
Gotta keep it on theme.
Yeah, gotta keep the conversation relevant, you know.
So anyway,
So money.
yeah, and
excessive snacking
and buying in bulk.
and buying in bulk.
Yeah. So I think if you know, it's like with the bulk stuff, a lot of that was just, you know, frugality at first, but then you kind of get the side benefits of it's just generally probably a little healthier anyway. And you're doing more cooking for yourself and you're doing, you know, kind of more intentional preparation and all that kind of stuff. Not, you know, it's like less easy to, you know, binge eat something if you're just making one portion for yourself.
Right.
As opposed to eating like a, you know, gallon of chips.
Right.
I don't know what the proper term that's not fluid is for that, but
Yeah, like my wife and I at one point, we were, you know, we wanted to find kind of some sweet sort of snacks that we could have. And so we're like, let's get into dried fruit, you know? And so we'd buy these like bulk, like mango bags from Costco. And, you know, they didn't have any options without the added sugar. So we just were like, okay, whatever. But it's fine. It's like our kind of dessert thing. So,
how many teeth did you lose in the
oh
following
my
month?
gosh, it was impossible to just eat one. There was no way. You know, it's like I would find myself going to the kitchen, opening the pantry, opening the bag, taking one. She would yell at me and be, well, she wouldn't yell, but she'd, you know, raise her voice so I could hear her and be like, can you give me one too? You know, and so then I would go, okay, let me pull out two. And then we'd sit down. And then it's like, we eat it, and then 15 minutes later, we get back up again, and we go over and do the same thing. And it's like, just bring the bag, And so we just bring the bag over, and we're just eating it like chips, And it was like 10 mangoes later, you're like, oh, I feel sick now. I shouldn't have done that. And it was like, we finally had to say, like, no more. We literally can't buy these because we have no self-control with these mangoes. And they're like, just unsweet enough that you feel good to eat a few, but they're just sweet enough that you can, like, you eat too many and you feel really gross and sick. It was like, there's no way to escape the sugar that we're just throwing into our bodies right now.
Right. Yeah. It is a weird, like, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a drug in some ways, obviously, but like, yeah, it is weird to try to like balance that relationship, especially when you have like access to so much, capital or like money,
And that bag was like $20.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's like, we don't need to spend $20 on this thing.
Yeah.
It's a complete indulgence that's not necessary at all.
Yeah. But like when you have the money, it's like, it's a no brainer. You just buy it, and it's like,
I want it, so I'm going to get it.
Yeah. And then it kind of leads to that area where you might be in a situation where you're lacking self-control, and then you just, it's there for you. So it's like having more money isn't always the best thing for your long-term longevity, And so, but yeah, so it is cool. Like, I've been talking to my sister a little bit, and it's like she's very involved in her community of people that are, doing more local gardens, having their own cows and stuff. And it's like, all these people are finding ways to kind of get like healthy nutrients and like sustainable products for like very cheaply, as far as just knowing people doing trades for things, not necessarily just paying for stuff, but kind of finding workarounds to support each other and still stay healthy with like good food while not spending an arm and a leg. So
that's cool.
Yeah. It's like, so again, where it's like you if you don't have a lot of the money, your creativity kind of takes over at that point. And it's like, you start to think of like different ways to like get what you need potentially.
Yeah.
And so, in addition to stacking the priorities properly with what you do with your money, then you also get more creative and then from there you can,
it's an interesting dynamic how, like, if people don't have enough money, then they're tempted to do criminal activities. They're going to go steal. They're going to go do something illegal. Like, if the money level goes down low enough, then it like challenges people's morals. It's like you're tempted to do something that was wrong. But if you're
I might go sell my plasma, dude.
You say, oh, so your plasma.
I'm just kidding.
But but if your finances go down in kind of this little sweet spot, it really helps you with like self-reflection, and it's like, what is essential in my life? What do I actually need? Yeah. And then you, like you said earlier, you trim all the fat and you get more structured and organized in your life, and you kind of clean up. Because like when you have it just excessive, more money than you actually need for any of the essentials in your life.
Yeah.
You have access to whatever you want. You've just gained this power. And when you can just do whatever you want, like most of the things that people want truly are like really bad, kind of unwholesome things. And now you've just like opened the door so that you can do all those things. And it's like, well, it's actually probably going to like make you a worse human being. It's like, it's going to be unhealthy. It's going to, like, very few people can get tons of power and then like not be corrupted by that,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, so
Jesus is always talking about the poor person being, blessed in some sense, because it's just, I don't know if they have clear vision or what it is exactly, but, there is those ideas where, it's like having less is somehow elevated, you know? And so, I don't know. It is interesting to see like too, what, I mean, obviously there's like being responsible with your money and whatnot, but it's like, it's interesting seeing like what a person can actually live on in this day and age, versus, what is excess, because it's like for some person, it's like, depends, again, it depends what like being responsible with your money looks like, but, maybe it's saving for retirement or something like that or whatnot. But I mean, overall, you can get by with very little in this day and age, I think. And too, I was kind of thinking, even going back to our podcast last week, talking about kind of cultural differences and stuff like that, watching, these travel documentaries. It's like, dude, if we like even lived in the same way as like other people, with like multi-generational housing or things like that, it's like, our money would go so much further even. And so, but it feels like people are unwilling to compromise in a lot of ways, you know, or like they're like, it's just like a right to have your own house and, you know, do all these things. And it's almost like a given at this point that you know, you're going to have your own space and you're going to like, you know, have at least 1,500 square feet and you need at least a car that's no more than 5 years old.
Yeah.
And all these kind of things. And we just, you know, associate that with, you know, not necessarily rights, but just like that's how it should be.
We've become kind of these like entitled consumers, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I deserve to have this as a human being.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, most of the world doesn't, but you just think you do because you're like comparing yourself to wealthy people, you know?
Yeah.
Like I remember living in Santa Barbara. It's like, if I don't have millions of dollars at a mansion, then I'm like a loser because that's what everybody really has in this town. Like
or appears to have. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it appears like everybody is super wealthy. So that's the standard. And I've like fallen so short of that. But then it's like, well, but if you go live in like a hut in a third world country, then having like a slightly bigger hut is like fancy. So, you know,
it's all perspective.
It's like, I don't think it really matters, you know?
Yeah.
Having your little like 1-bedroom apartment is like glamorous, you know?
Yeah.
There's no mud on the ground. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't know. Now earthen floors are trendy. So,
Are they?
well, I mean, I think so a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not actually, but they're just, if you had like an earthen floor, like done well in like some sort of sustainable house, people would think it was really cool and fancy.
Or an earthship house.
Yeah. Or whatever, you know, or just like a sustainable house. Like it would be like in the sustainable movement, it'd be a trendy thing.
Oh, wow. You're so green.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I'm brown.
Actually, I'm poor. So, yeah. So you just like, you know, and again, that's kind of like one of those full circle things where, you know, if you don't have the means necessarily, you might have to do something like you know, that costs less money, but maybe it's more like labor intensive.
It's funny you say that because literally before I came over today, I was watching a quick little YouTube video of this guy in, where was this guy? I can't remember. I think he was in Asia somewhere.
Cambodia.
And maybe. And he,
It's worth a shot.
and he had bought a piece of land and he was like, I don't want to buy the construction to like build a house. It's too expensive, but I know how to like do my own construction. So I'm going to build it myself out of the dirt. So all he did was make his own bricks and he made like a 100% brick house from the dirt on his land. He just got water from a stream, poured it on the ground, stepped in it, turned it into like a mud clay thing. And then he just like would put it into like a big bucket and he would throw hay on it and mix it into bricks. And then he just like got like a little brick setter thing and he roasted them in the sun and then he just like scooped them and put them all together, made like a house out of it. I was like, wow, dude,
That's awesome.
Yeah. If you got the talents to do that, you know how to do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure just about anybody could do that.
He even made like an archway, you know, where it's like, dude, I don't know how you had to like put things up there to like support that and then stick it together, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's pretty good.
Huh.
So
That's cool.
he had some skills, you know, but
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, and so again, you know, I think that points to the creativity of, you know, it's like if you don't, and that, I mean, you get this in a lot of other areas too, where it's like, you know, even artistry or whatever, it's like constraints actually increase creativity. Like most people think it's the opposite, where it's like, oh, if you can just do anything, then you're at your most creative potential, or you're kind of at this, a limited potential.
But I think that only works if you know exactly what you want to do. Like if you like have a precise plan of like, I want to do this thing, but there's too many barriers in the way, and so I need to be able to do whatever I want to do my thing, then I think that can potentially work.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if you've got that writer's block of like, I don't know how to accomplish this thing, I don't know, sometimes the rules can almost like get in the way. And, or I'm sorry, I meant to say the opposite. Sometimes the rules can almost help you because it gives you a path, is what I meant to say. Yeah. If you just have unlimited access, it's like when you walk into the grocery store and there's like 50 options of cereal and you're like, well, I knew I wanted cereal, but now I have no idea which one to get.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. So it's, if you can constrain your options, it's like it does increase creativity, through that. So yeah, it's, I definitely, it's like fun to learn through that process of like, and I guess too, it's like, I think this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think if you have a little bit of confidence in yourself, I guess, or I mean, for me, I don't have much confidence in myself, but I have a lot of confidence in God. So, it's like, I think for that, it helps keep me out of despair, I guess, like through like a more lean time, so it's like, I think a lot of people could fall into like a very despairing trap, and it definitely plays on my mind. It's not like I'm immune to it, but it's like, there is like an ultimate hope and an ultimate, like, especially since in my life and just everybody I've ever researched or heard about, it's like you see people's lives go through like such highs and lows. And so, you just see people like go from riches to rags and rags to riches.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes it has to do with them, but very little. It's more just their circumstances and, kind of things that happened around them. And so for me, it's like just seeing that change and that variability in life really just, it's like you just never know where you're going to be in 5 years, so as long as you're just taking the steps that you feel like you need to take right now, you can kind of like have some hope in the future, I would think. But yeah, so yeah, that was kind of my shorter thought today. And
yeah, man, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, people, so I think that would mean you need to either give lots of money away, super hardcore budget. Maybe just quit your job, be poor for a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you can really apply it necessarily. Like
Tighten the belt.
Might just happen to you, but
That's true.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's like maybe save more and spend less on just frivolous things or whatever. Maybe you can, but even that takes a level of like discipline and like self-control.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like,
Cut the frivolities.
Maybe
Yeah.
everyone should just be a monk.
Yeah,
No, I don't think so.
except the married people.
Except, yeah, I don't know, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know if there's like necessarily something you can apply, but maybe if you find that yourself in that situation, you can try to like use it to find your priorities. And I think I'm noticing a theme, dude, in all my stuff. It's all being like challenged and like going to Vegas and figuring out
Personal growth things.
yeah, personal.
That's
growth
good, man.
things.
Personal growth is inspiring.
It is, yeah.
That's a big part of just being inspired is like when you find something inspirational, it makes you want to change behaviors,
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, I'm really inspired by this person's actions or this aspect of life or whatever it is. And then it's like, I want to do something different now because I'm inspired by that,
Yeah, it's actually
like I
very
want to
true.
live in a different way. I'm thinking differently. I want to treat people differently. It's like
Yeah.
it changes your decision making in life.
And I think a lot of these things, like, I probably just lived too comfortable of a life before, so it was like I never really had these things like kind of challenging me. And so now that I'm like choosing to be more uncomfortable, it's these things are being presented, I guess.
Yeah.
And so
Did you ever watch that YouTube channel, the Yes Theory guys?
a few times, yeah.
Yeah. Their whole motto is seek discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just like do things that are really awkward, socially awkward, or like, like physical challenges or all kinds of stuff like that.
And they make millions of dollars for it.
And they make a lot of money. I mean, at least it looks like they make a lot of money.
I think they do.
I assume.
I think
They got a lot of people on YouTube, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they're doing fine.
Their jackets that they make probably cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Their merch.
Right. Yeah, that's
It's the kind of discomfort I want to seek.
100% cotton nylon discomfort.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes like walking out in like a banana costume a little bit more tolerable if you know you're going to make like $50,000 for
yeah,
it.
if it's like, well, I'm gonna do some really uncomfortable video, but we make about $100,000 a video. It's like, well, okay, I'll do the weird thing. It sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Then you really find out about yourself.
I'll go jump in the Arctic Ocean for a minute or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Like my
Good
medical
talk-
staff
good
on hand.
Talk to strangers.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that for free.
Yeah.
And I'm uncomfortable.
Oh, man.
It's a lose-lose. All right, dude. All right, let's ship it to part 2.
All right, here we go.
Brandon's story.
Well, raise your pinkies high. That's right. So, just imagine.
Okay.
What if you were back in some, ancient time,
Okay.
and let's just say it was like 4,000 years ago.
You're starting all these off with hypotheticals now. It's getting me worried.
Honestly, I just thought of this like 10 seconds ago, so I'm
nice.
just rolling with it.
Okay.
And
4,000 years ago?
4,000 years ago.
Okay.
And let's say that, water's boring. You don't want to drink that. So you're like, man, too bad there isn't like soda or something else going on.
It's
like
2000 BC?
Yeah, it's like what else could people be drinking,
Jeez.
Like,
okay.
There's not a whole lot of variety, you can't go down to the supermarket and like buy
Some cow's
kombucha
blood?
or whatever. Okay, yeah, cow's blood, maybe that's a thing. Okay, milk probably.
Tea.
I guess. Tea, maybe some leaf stuff going on,
Okay.
But I just find it interesting that way back then,
Mm-hmm.
people were cultivating and creating really sophisticated food products.
Mm.
And the one I wanted to point to was wine. I want to talk about wine
Nice.
because when I look at it, it's just such a. I mean, I've studied it for a while. I actually took like a legit class at a city college on it.
Aren't you a official sommelier now?
No, I'm not. No, I'm an unofficial sommelier. I'm a sommelier to myself. But yeah, I mean, my wife and I like to, we watch YouTube videos on it, and we have books, and we get really nerdy on apps, and we journal about it, and it's pretty nerdy in there. But it's just fascinating to me because it's such a complex creation, and it's a very creative and scientific thing that people make.
Yeah.
And it's just to me, it's like so much more than just like here's an alcohol drink. It's like there's a story, there's a culture, there's a language, there's a geography to it. There could be like a family lineage of this vineyard that like for 20 generations we've always made the wine here, whatever it is. And
History, yeah.
Yeah, there's history to it, and it's just interesting when I think about it's one of the most ancient like devices of complexity that humanity was like creating. Like back to like I mean the earliest we know that I remember out of the Bible at least was that Noah had a vineyard and was making wine.
Yeah.
So which makes me assume that people were maybe making wine pre-Noah. I don't imagine that he was the first, vineyard owner.
Yeah.
In history. I'm sure there were people like pre-flood.
Hey, you can't have the whole world sinful if wine wasn't involved.
Yeah, that's right. Like obviously, if the world was horribly violent and evil, wine had to be around. No, Paul. Those people didn't drink wine. Those were the IPA beer drinking people. What God removed was the breweries. Okay, He didn't remove the vineyards. Yeah. I got opinions. But no, it's just it's this thing that people have been making with complexity, with sophistication for so long. It feels ancient. It feels like, ooh, this is like the ancient pyramid kind of thing. And I think I enjoy that it feels like such an old kind of tradition of humanity making this drink. And I like how there's kind of this like story with it every time you open a bottle. It's like if you want to dig deeper into the story of like the people who made it and the place, I think it's really fun. It's fun to have one thing that like gives you a whole history to it. But I think it's also interesting because it's like a creative work that you consume, and I think that's kind of fun. Like there's a lot of foods that are like very creative, and it's like, it's not like a visual, it's not like music, like a sound. It's not, it's like a texture, and I eat it and I taste it, and it's like a cool, creative, artistic thing.
You almost like add it to your body.
You're adding it to your body, yeah. So I think that those are fun things about wine that makes it really inspiring. The ancientness of it, the creative, artistic part of it. But then also, I think there's so much biblical symbolism with wine and vineyards.
It's a good thing you said that because
I knew you. Yeah, if I didn't mention, I knew you were going to mention it. But just where you have parables and in the Gospels where God's talking or Jesus is talking about the stories of the vineyard, and you're like a vine branch that's been grafted on to another vine branch, and which is actually a really interesting story, because if you know an interesting historical fact with wine, almost all wine is actually a combination of two grafted plants together. and this is a more modern thing. This was not an ancient thing, but years ago, I can't remember exactly how long ago it was. There was basically a disease that started, a plant disease that spread amongst all the vineyards in Europe.
Okay.
And it pretty much went all throughout all these ancient, family generations of vineyards and farms all over Europe, and like killed almost all the vines. And what they had to do was they had to basically come to America. And in America, there's actually a different sort of genetic form of vineyards in America, in the United States.
Okay.
And that genetic plant was immune to the virus, to like the disease that was spreading in Europe.
Wow.
So they came to the United States. They took the United States vines, and what they would do is they would basically take the roots of the United States vine, put it into the ground, and then they would take the European branches of the vines and they would trim the roots off and they would graft it together to the American roots. So almost all the vineyards in Europe is an American root with a European graft on top. And that's even how a lot of vineyards, even in the United States, will be, because they like having the European style of like a vine, but they all want to have that like disease immunity from the United States. So
Interesting.
almost all vineyards actually are literally like a graft today, which is really funny then, knowing that context. And then you read when Jesus talks about grafting branches, I think he talked about like grafting maybe an olive
clearly
branch.
talking about Brittany in the United States.
Obviously, it was a prophecy too. I have no idea. I don't know. But I think it was more about the Gentiles being grafted to the Jewish nation. But it's fascinating to think about that. But the symbolism, found within kind of the idea of two different people groups being grafted together within God's family. Jesus talking about wine in relationship to his blood, kind of the weird vampire cannibalism thing, but it's symbolic, knowing that like you're drinking the blood and it's like you're accepting the forgiveness of Christ and remembering what he did on the cross and
the wrath of the cup.
Yeah. Can you drink this cup?
Mm-hmm.
Can you take this like God's wrath on you? So anyway, it's a fascinating thing to me. I know that wine is like a big thing for me. I don't know if wine's ever been like a super, appealing beverage for you. But
I don't know. Maybe it is like a good thing to dive into. What's the difference between like modern wine and like ancient wine? I'm sure there's a difference, right?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't know. I mean, because we just don't have any like ancient vines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I believe,
because I have heard the process was different, and that like ancient wine was even lower in alcohol content.
Probably, yeah.
And so like a lot of our alcohol manufacturing nowadays is actually just to increase the alcoholic volume.
Yeah. We have become more sophisticated in boozing it up. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the technical term.
Yeah. And I would say cheaper wines usually have food color dyes to them to make the color look extra bright and fun. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they'll have like added sugars just to make them extra sweet, but they don't have to tell you that, so you would never know. All you know is that it's made of grapes.
Yeah, exactly. And then
but they put stuff in it.
I think probably working at Trader Joe's honestly ruined wine for me.
Oh, really? Because
I was just like, because they would just do different tests, with the wine and stuff, and it was just like, I mean, well, okay, so I'll get into that first, where it was like they would do, blind taste tests, and people like, it was basically just random what people liked. They would have like a $10 bottle, a $60 bottle, and a $30 bottle. Yeah. And it was just like pretty even across the board. And sometimes even like the lesser wine would just win out like completely, I say lesser. And
less expensive. Yeah.
So it was like, but then they're always telling you to like push the higher end wines on people. And it's like, well, why? Because obviously profit margin. Right. Even though it has like literally nothing to do with taste. And so then people are like, well, they would kind of come and be like, okay, recommend a wine. I'm like, okay, well, I just pick a random bottle and see if you like it. I tell people. So I think I didn't end up on the wine team or anything at Trader Joe's. Yeah. And so
I know. That's a tough one, where like you genuinely don't like the product that they want to push.
Yeah,
or
and I
you
mean,
just don't care enough. Yeah.
well, I mean, like it's fine, but it's like again, like if it boils down to personal taste, like
Yeah.
it's just random than what you like at some point.
Yeah, it is really hard because I've got people I know who really love that oaky vanilla. We want like the Chardonnay in like the oaky barrels, and we want the Cabernet Sauvignon that's been in like the rum or like the whiskey barrels. And I hate that wine. I like can't stand it. It's like ugh, I can't even drink this.
Yeah.
Like I will put that wine down. I'll pour it out.
Oh wow.
But if you give me like a really citrus, like crisp apple white wine, like a super dry Riesling, even like a pretty fruity, Sauv Blanc, or like a steel, unoaked Chardonnay or things like that, or like a really like fruit forward, like purple or not purple, but like black fruit, red fruit, kind of Pinot Noir, Syrahs, things like that. I love those kinds of wines, but not everybody likes that. Some people are like, it's too like fruity and floral. I can't stand this, So everybody has different tastes, and I could pick out this is my favorite wine. It's like super fruit forward. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's sparkly and acidic, and I love that stuff. And then I would give that to people I know who love that like oakiness, and they would taste it and go, ew, yuck, I just drank like grape juice. Like I don't want that. I want like an oak barrel, and they would hate it.
Yeah.
So it's like, who says this is good wine?
Yeah.
But I think that that's one of the enjoyable things about wine is that it's so subjective like that. There is no way to be like, this is an objectively good wine. It's like, well, to who, know?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that you talked about, which is such a classic example with wine, and I've done this so many times with wines where it's like you've got 20 bottles on the table and you got a huge crowd of people and everybody's drinking the different bottles and you're trying to decide like which one's the best. And everybody votes for the one that was dirt cheap at the gas station, and it's like, wow, is the $2 Chuck one, and then the person who brought the expensive one is like super dejected, but they like are super annoyed. But it's just interesting because it shows how you can get deceived by an outward appearance.
Yeah.
Like you could look at a bottle and say, that is an expensive bottle from a super nice winery. Like I'm sure that's going to be really good.
Well, and there's also like, I think a placebo that goes on for people when they see that expensive label or the price tag, like, and they taste it, like you can't say it. Like there's just like some weird voice in your brain that says you can't say it's bad,
Yeah.
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 So
one time I was drinking wine, and it was like a, I don't know, $70 or $80 bottle of wine or something like that. I didn't buy it because I'm more frugal than that. And I just instantly was like, oh no, it's bad. This doesn't taste good. It's not like it's corked or anything. It's just like it genuinely doesn't taste that great.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh no, like I regret that we bought, or the person like got this wine. Like I wish we'd gotten like a different one or something. It's like I could have found like a $10 bottle that was better than this. Like, oh no,
$5 or $20 bottles.
We could have bought like way more bottles for like way cheaper that were like better than this. And it's just like huge disappointment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I couldn't sit there
and you have to drink it because
you got to drink it because you just spent the person just spent money on it. So you're not going to complain about it. You're not going to be like, this wine sucks, I'm not going to drink it. It's like, spend a bunch of money on that. You drink up, you're going to like it. It's like,
right?
Yeah.
It is interesting. So how much of a like, and this is something I've heard like different things about, with the kind of going back to the additives and stuff. It's like how much of that stuff affects the flavor of the wine?
Pretty significantly. Yeah. And
because that's what it seems like to me, is like a lot of the flavors are influenced by more so external things to the wine than actually the wine itself, like the oak barrel or like the steel barrel or whatever. It's like,
yeah, well, yeah. So like the fermentation process, I would say that's where a lot of the art comes from. But it depends on if people are adding other substances. Like I would say there's the farming aspect of it, which is taking care of your grapes, where you're located, how you farmed the grapes, things like that. That's a whole aspect of the art of how you want the flavor to come out. But then there's the fermentation process. How long do you ferment it? What kind of barrels or steel vats or what did you ferment it in? Things like that. And then there's kind of did you add stuff to it? Yeah. So like I would say adding things to it is kind of the the cheap way to do it. It's like we're gonna throw stuff at it to make it taste good because our other art processes sucked, and so we're gonna like do
cut some corners there.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of cut some corners to make it taste good, so we make sure we like make our profit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and that's like really large. The bottom shelf cheapest wine that you buy in like a giant jug that's like super giant brands that are all over the world. Those are going to be the companies that are just making the cheapest creative process possible.
Yeah.
It's the McDonald's wine thing. And then just like throw the stuff in afterwards to make sure that they all taste good. That's going to be usually those wines.
Well, and probably even want like some amount of quality control for that reason. You're like, it helps with your quality control to like get things to taste similar,
Yeah.
to like the more you add to it, and the less like variability in just the grape juice or the fermentation, it's like it makes a more consistent product.
Yeah.
Because you can't really control if like the grapes were a little bit drier this year or wetter, but you can control like what
sometimes you have a bad season.
But you can control what you add in and maybe mask some of that flavor with.
Yeah, and the thing is, as you get more, I don't know, acute with your tasting, your senses are more aware. You begin to learn those kind of artificial tastes, and you kind of know. There's like, I think I just drank plastic. It's like you're like aware that you just like that doesn't taste real. Color doesn't look real. It's like too sugary. It's too something wrong with it. Too high of alcohol.
Carcinogen.
Yeah, I think I just drank cancer. So yeah, after a while, you can kind of pick up on some of those things.
Yeah,
and then it becomes unappealing to you. And sometimes if people will drink wine for the first time when people are younger, and they'll be like, I don't like wine, and I think that it's because they bought those like cheaper wines.
Yeah.
And they
I think that, dude, when you mix like especially like the high sugar and alcohol content, it's like you're just asking for a headache, and like and additives and stuff like that. It just it makes you feel like crap,
Yeah. I really like a low alcohol, low sugar wine. I want like dry and get me on like the 15 or no, not 15. That's high. The 12%, more like 11, 12%. That's the lower range of of alcohol.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And but see, then when you do acquire that taste and you can pick up on flavors, then when you do find a wine that was made without a lot of the additives afterwards, and it was just really good farming, really good fermenting process.
Yeah.
Then it brings out a lot of the like notes and flavors even more. And then those are like extra emphasized. And you also can pick up the subtleties within variety of taste. It's like, I'm tasting some oak and vanilla, but I'm also tasting kind of this like earthy gravel taste. And I'm getting like a little bit of kind of like a floral taste that's coming in. And, there is kind of this like earthy sort of like dirt kind of taste that sometimes you can pick up on things.
Interesting. Have you ever had like a small batch wine from like?
Oh yeah,
like,
one of my favorite wineries ever. I think they only do like 100 barrels or something, and no, less than 100 barrels. I think they do like 50 barrels.
Okay. And
they're like super small, and I think they only do Pinot Noir and everything. I think they have like 3 different bottles that they make, and every single thing that you drink from them is like gold.
Yeah.
It's red gold.
Liquid gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm always curious. Like, I would love to try, like, if I was going to do a taste test, I'd love to try, like some generic wine versus like, somebody that just like made it in their, like at home, almost.
Yeah.
And just did it like just fully from scratch, didn't add anything, just like see what like real, just from the earth wine tastes like.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's probably night and day.
Yeah. I mean, the one winery I'm thinking of, I think their bottles range from like $40 to $60. I think that's kind of their little range of price, And I've bought maybe 2 or 3 of their bottles over the years back in Southern California, and they're great. So yeah, it's like, that's,
you
if
probably
you
like could visit their winery and stuff too, huh?
Oh yeah, you could go there in person. Yeah, and you could you could actually do their tasting room and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's all run by one dude.
Really?
Pancho. Super fun guy.
Pancho Villa.
Yeah. Well, okay, so aside from some of the fun things that I was thinking about with wine, I wanted to ask you, do you think that there's any reason why wine is symbolic for blood other than just that it's red? Do you think it's just purely that it's like, this is a red liquid and blood is red, and so like we're going to make symbolism because it's like red thing? Or do you feel like there's something deeper to the nature of wine that makes it symbolic of like the blood of Christ, other than just it's like a red liquid.
Yeah. So I was actually talking to someone the other day, and we were kind of talking about blood being like kind of the soul or the life,
Oh,
and or kind of maybe the spirit, of a person.
okay, yeah.
And so it's like when you like if you put on a tourniquet on your hand
Mm-hmm.
and the blood wasn't flowing through the hand, it
And
would
will
die.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this idea of like the spirit animating the flesh, or the body. And so, kind of going off that, it's kind of funny that we call like alcohol spirits.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's something that kind of livens you up, animates you a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think there is some level of like, kind of animating, just the material world in some sense, of like kind of adding that extra layer to just regular day-to-day things, and elevating you.
Yeah.
And I think too, there's also kind of a connection with it's like a more spiritual, people, I mean, obviously they used it in rituals and stuff like that, and fermented stuff, and, doing all kinds of weird stuff with fermentation and rituals, but, it's kind of always associated with like a more spiritual state of being as well.
It's like why could, why would we make wine this like spiritual, religious kind of drink?
Yeah.
The sacrament and all these things. But it's like, well, why couldn't we have it like beer? It's like have the bread and the cup, and you drink the cup, and it's like, it's too hoppy, man. IPA.
Yeah.
The heck, man? I only drink wheat beers. It's like, what if it was,
That's funny.
or it's like even with wine, it's always red wine. What if it was white wine? What if you showed up and it was like, have the bread and the wine, and it was like, Chardonnay,
Summer.
It's like,
yeah, no, that's true.
Like I wonder, is there something deeper to the wine analogy, the symbolism?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just the fact that it was like the red liquid in the ancient times?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that was just it. And if that's it, that's cool. Like that's good enough for me, but me being a wine nerd, I'd like to think it's deeper than that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it definitely has to do with like some sort of spiritual or like spirit thing, where it's like, because it does encapsulate kind of like the spiritual principles of animating things. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the color of why it has to be red versus white, I don't know. What was the first recorded instance of white wine? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm thinking about in the Bible, I feel like I don't feel like it really talks about red wine or white wine. I think it usually just talks about I think it's just like wine.
Yeah.
Just generic wine. Maybe there was a third color of wine back then. We don't even know what it was. Blue wine.
Yellow wine.
One thing that I do think is interesting in terms of a symbolism with just the process of creating wine is that, one, it's something you have to grow, which, you have that with like beer and other things too, but you have to grow the plant. And then once you grow it, part of the fermenting, like in between the farming and the fermentation process, is crushing. You have to like break the grapes, and then the grapes basically like bleed their juice out, and it's just interesting, and that's the same thing with like an olive press. You have to like crush the olives and get the oil out,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how the beer process works. Maybe there's something similar, but in the wine, I would just imagine, because the ancient kind of traditional way of doing that was that everybody cleaned off their feet, stuck all the grapes in a giant barrel, and everybody would just go like step on the grapes. And so literally you're like crushing the grapes under your feet.
Yeah.
Which almost feels like the symbolic, maybe crushing the head of the serpent with your heel, or there's something with that just feels like you're stepping on the life and you're like destroying it in order to create like the blood that comes out. And there's just something I could imagine being a little deeper with that.
It is pretty primal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever done wine stomping?
No, but I would love to. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd do some. Yeah.
They had at this like Renaissance festival or whatever we went to up in Sonora, they had like they had a wine press that people would get in and stuff.
That's cool.
Hope they double sanitize that one.
The alcohol will burn it off.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, there's all kinds of there's bugs, there's weird things that get into wine. They just kind of roll with it.
Reading about $2 Chuck or like some of the horror stories about that back in the day, it was like, Yeah, you just kind of grind up all the rodents in the rows and like,
yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
just different little animals.
Like,
And,
yeah, and that's one of the things is if you don't hand pick it, it's
Mhm.
obviously it's cheaper if you buy like a big tractor thing that can span over. And basically what they would have it do is they would just have like little catchers underneath on the bottom, like close to the ground.
Mhm.
And then they would basically just like the machines would like hit the vines, and it would just like break off like a whole branch with the grapes.
Yeah.
And then you'd be getting stems, you'd be getting bugs, you'd be getting, if there's like a weird, like a bird living in there, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Versus if you hand pick it, which obviously is more time consuming, you have to pay people, it's a ton of money, but then you're just getting the grapes.
Yeah.
So again, part of the
Well,
creative process.
I can confirm hand picking blueberries and stuff that you still even get other stuff in there.
Oh, well, yeah, that's probably true as well.
But it's far
Yes.
less.
Yeah,
It's
far,
far less.
yeah, reducing it,
Yeah,
reducing the
I
contamination.
did a summer of blueberry picking. That was funny.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just kind of like
When
gave you
did
huh?
you do that?
like 2 summers ago.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so just like pretty decent money actually.
Yeah,
It's like almost like $20 an hour just to go
Wow.
like
dude,
just take blueberries off someone's farm, put them in a bucket, and then
Wow.
weigh them at the end of the day. And
that's good.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anyone's ever in Laclede, Idaho, you can do that.
Laclede?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where that is.
Between Priest River and Sandpoint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty nice.
All right. Cool, man. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, with the crushing analogy. Well, and it's like it's kind of counterintuitive to even like think about that, as far as like, you get this usable product, and then it's like because grapes are very usable. Obviously, you can eat them, you can do whatever with them, but then to like, it's like kind of counterintuitive to be like, okay, we're gonna take this perfectly usable product, and then like create a byproduct of crushed grapes, which you can still use, but it's like, and then we're gonna like take this other substance and then even delay the nutrition or whatever we want from it even further.
Right.
It's like I would imagine like a lot of people would just be kind of like farm to table, essentially, of just like taking what they grow and then trying to integrate it immediately.
Yeah.
But then to like even delay that further.
Yeah. It's like, do you want the immediate rewards now, or do you want to
Yeah.
destroy the reward, then like preserve it for a year and a half or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you'll get a different kind of reward when that's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess shows both towards like planning, and like being able to, have a sustainable enough infrastructure and like food economy
Yeah.
to be able to like do that, for one. I mean, they were probably storing grains maybe as well. I don't know. But, you have to have some sort of food stability to be able to do that,
Yeah.
to like destroy part of your food and turn it into like a not food product.
Yeah. That's true.
And then also, yeah, the idea that, wine must be very highly sought after to do that, for your incentive structure to be that
That's
way.
true. Yeah. It's like I was saying, in an ancient world, that's like a very advanced agricultural thing to do.
Mhm.
Like wine is not like a basic agriculture,
Yeah.
And so it just shows to the sophistication of what people were doing, how
Yeah.
complex their agricultural society was. It would be available for people to do that. Like, it's pretty
And
cool.
what lengths people will go to for alcohol.
For alcohol. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were probably just doing some mead too,
The great-
Mead's a lot faster.
Yeah. The great motivator.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. In like a year from now, we can have booze. Like, okay.
I know. Well, yeah, it is amazing how much, like booze motivates people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Just like how if you don't have enough money, it motivates.
yeah,
You know?
there we go. We tied it all together.
Tied it all
I
together.
found the perfect way to do it.
How do you motivate people? Don't give them money. Give them alcohol. So all the homeless people.
Jeez.
Oh man.
I think, wasn't there, I'm trying to think, at one point in history, there was beer rations in different places.
Wait, beer rations? Really?
Yeah, dude, I have to look this up. I forget what it was, but like, it might have been like, medieval Europe or something. Like the
Really?
peasants would get beer rations or something,
Wow.
something like
Make
that.
them happy.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know
Elect
exactly.
me as your king. Everybody get free beer.
Yeah.
I'll vote for that guy.
Well, I think even World War II, right? They got like cigarette rations or something like
Yeah,
that.
that was a big thing.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Nothing like booming your industry, like going to war.
Yeah.
You know what all the soldiers need? Cigarettes. Why don't you buy some from us?
Yeah,
Buy
right.
like 1 billion from us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you can't look at an old World War II picture without someone
That's
smoking.
somebody smoking. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, motivation. There we go.
That's right.
We tied it all together.
Yep. All right, people.
So-
Drink wine responsibly, and
Be poor responsibly.
and do pour responsibly. And if you're maybe getting poor responsibly, you'll probably not drink wine because wine can be expensive. So
that is true.
probably choose one or the other.
Those things don't go hand in
They
hand.
don't always go well together. Wine is a difficult thing to do on a budget.
Truly is.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for tuning into
Thanks
episode
for
40.
watching.
And we'll see you next week.